Big round of applause to Mark as he comes forward.
So good afternoon, everybody. Hope lunch was good. As mentioned, we're going to have a quick panel on climate finance. We have 3 panelists, including myself, so we're going to sort of play a hybrid role here. Our panel is thin in terms of people, and that's on purpose because not many people have this knowledge. So I think you guys are going to be fortunate that you're going to have the actual experts, of which I'm one of them, in the industry when it comes to climate finance. I was having lunch with somebody who asked, she actually said to me, you're doing the panel on climate finance, meaning ESG, right? So these are the myths we want to dispel. Climate finance is not ESG. It is not impact finance. It's not sustainable investing. It is not all these things that people, green financing. So I want to welcome my panel. So like I said, we're going to be a panel of 3. One of us is on the phones. I just hope we can get him connected. I don't know if the tech team can confirm. Kjristian is with us. Perfect. So I'll let Kjristian introduce himself, after which I'll have my second panelist. Maybe I'll get him up here first, sorry. Aaron Werike, who is with the Climate Finance Unit at the Ministry of Finance. Welcome, sir. And then Kjristian, who is online, unfortunately cannot be with us today, is the founder and CEO of an organization called 1MTN, 1 million tons, and he'll explain what he does. So Kjristian, I'll pass it on to you for now, whilst we take our seats, and then we'll pick it up from there. Thank you.
So much, Mark. I hope I'm loud and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, it's who wanted to be here together with you, unfortunately via virtual tool, but yeah, let's see. I really hope to make it well. As Mark mentioned, my name is Kjristian Raude. I'm the CEO and co-founder of 1MTN. It stands for 1 million ton nation. As we are carbon project developer, then our aim is to take the project not less than 1 million ton of carbon we can remove from the atmosphere. So we are operating mostly right now in Uganda, a small team in Kenya as well. And we remove carbon by restoring degraded lands with native bamboo and also implementing agroforestry practices. Important to mention is that we do leasehold concepts, meaning that we lease the land from the private landowners mostly, and we give the land back after the project ends with a full mature bamboo forest on it, which is generating recurring revenue due to the fact that bamboo needs annual thinning, because it is by definition it's a woody grass. We need to take care of it regularly. Our first pilot of 400 hectares is done in North Uganda as a success. To be honest, I'm also surprised that it's the largest intact commercial bamboo plantation all in East Africa. And regarding our clients, they are local, regional, and global corporates who offtakes our high-quality carbon credits, but also crops and bamboo. The last but not least, the most important for me and for the people of Uganda is that 90% of our team actually are living and operating in East Africa, boots on the ground. So we consider heavily ourselves boots on the ground and the Ugandan company. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
All right, thank you, Kjristian. I'll ask Aaron to introduce himself. Just so you know, Aaron has graciously accepted to be here, but because of our schedule, he might have to leave a little bit early, so we'll try to run through this panel because he has another engagement at 4 o'clock. But over to you, Aaron. Turn it on.
Thank you, Mark. Aaron Werike. I work with the Ministry of Finance in the Climate Finance Unit, and the unit is in charge of mobilizing domestic and international climate finance from public and private sources to be able to implement our climate change actions across several sectors such as energy, generation, transmission, energy efficiency, clean cooking, agriculture, transport, urbanization. So we are largely in charge of mobilizing that kind of finance which is earmarked for green and climate sensitive projects. But we also offer capacity building to the private sector, to public sector agencies, in developing bankable project proposals aligned to different funds across the world. We also coordinate all climate change action, the financing aspect of it, because we have a number of financiers coming in with different instruments. So we are like the hub and the one-stop center of all those actors to have this money in one basket and then be able to disburse and deploy to different investment needs. So generally that is what pretty much is Ministry of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you. So our choice of panelists was based on trying to get a mix between policy and private players. So Kjristian, just so you know, in the room we have a lot of fund managers, we have CFAs, we have practitioners in the financing space, many of whom talk about climate finance, talk about green financing, sustainability, ESG, as I mentioned. And there's a lot of words that get thrown around, but if you come down to the numbers, not a lot of investment is happening. So, and for those of you, I don't know how many in the room are actually getting the depth of some of these transactions. Kjristian can explain some more, but you'll hear things like VRs, CRs, carbon credit, CDM, DNA, LOA, all kinds of acronyms are getting thrown around, RED plus, mechanisms, all kinds of things happening, but many people are not very familiar, and as a result, I think the thinking is that financiers have shied away from this asset class, especially because they don't understand it. So Kjristian, from you, I would like to understand, one, your choice of Uganda for your project, and number two, what your journey has been like in trying to raise capital and where you are to date. Over to you, Kjristian.
Thank you, Mark. How much time we have?
I'd say probably about 25 minutes for the panel all in, and then we're going to take some questions from the crowd.
It's a loaded question. Why Uganda? It's simple regarding the financing. We can take hours or maybe days to start that point. But I would like to start why Uganda. I mean, first of all, I love Africa. I think the first trip to Africa for me was 2004, something around that one. And since then, I have been traveling in different countries in Africa and Uganda most effectively the last 6-7 years on an annual basis, because I knew that one day I would build something over there. I didn't know back in time what, but I had a good, warm inner feeling. So coming back, why one and decided to start from Uganda, I can give you five very strict reasons. First of all, is impact. So I have been founding and exiting actually commercially driven businesses all my adult life. I have been a couple of businesses, so then made some money and then started to invest as an angel investor into early stage, mostly technology startups. After this time, I understand that I'm still more operating type of guy. And if I build something new, I would like to put impact as a first. So combining my previous experience doing already a small-scale business projects in Uganda before, and my co-founder experience in power markets and ESG, Uganda is very hard to found and to really generate a huge impact. To be frank, our project is contributing to 8 sustainable development goals of organizations. The difference is impact first, impact in business, but not only. Second is that I really would like to address a huge problem for Africa and also Uganda, specifically North Uganda have. That's that most of the arable land is degraded. This problem is huge and it needs an immediate action. Via our project, our business really wants to tap into this solution. The third one is definitely the social economic impact, because our project generates thousands of jobs along the way, and as from who is native in Uganda, for some it's a it's a nice surprise, but it's negative in Uganda. And the bamboo bioeconomy globally is 65 billion USD around the market. How much Uganda is doing it, how much Kenya is already Africa is doing it, it's close to zero. So I'm very triggered and excited about actually helping to fully fill the bamboo bioeconomy in the region of East Africa, which is basically non-existing at the moment, and tapping into the global major monster bamboo markets all in all. And of course, with the partners, local partners, with the operating groups, we really want to contribute to that. And then last but not least is finance. We are talking about climate finance, as Mark you mentioned, but truth to be told, only 3% of global climate finance are towards that. This number is ridiculously low, and we need to work together to increase this number significantly. So these are the reasons why we started in Uganda. First of all, we see our project is suitable as an environment. There's a need, a basic need from the nature of the food, but at the same time contributing and helping to attract capital to climate finance to increase that rate. And how has it been so far? I mean, it has been rewarding and challenging at the same time. Fortunately, there has been private investors who are believing in what we do, who are believing in Uganda, who are believing in nature-based solutions. But at the same time, as you mentioned as well, the awareness is low. So if I'm talking typical investor from the global north, for example, then after nature-based assets and carbon markets, for most of them, they are all yellow or green, or not green, but yellow or red. That's one investor put me nicely. Okay, Kjristian, if you give one of these, I can handle it. You can give all these three. I cannot get that approval from the AIC. So in essence, we need to educate a lot the investors what it is actually, what the carbon markets are doing, actually how to de-risk the investments, how to also provide community investments and support from the public funds, from the public sector. This is all I think where jobs need to be done. So yeah, I think this is as short as possible to give us some reflections for the funding efforts.
Thank you, Kjristian. Picking up on what you just shared, Aaron. So Kjristian says 3%. Now, being a government agency or department, number one, are you guys aware of this number, the 3%? And if you are, what's your role and what specifically is actually getting done to up that investment, specifically in Uganda?
Like as rightly put it, we have when you look at global climate finance flows, the private sector accounts for about 3% of it, and that is because of a number of challenges. First, the investors are not aware of the economic opportunities which lie within climate change. Climate change is a challenge. You have floods happening, you have dry spells with implications on agriculture, and very many other things, but it also comes with investment opportunities, like investments in activities which build resilience of these communities. For instance, irrigation, you want less emissive sources of energy like solar farms and solar plants, investments in geothermal, solar dryers, etc. So there are all these technologies which can help communities to cope with climate change, which can be business opportunities, but there have been challenges of trying to illustrate their bankability because there is perceived risk. Some of these are new investment areas and there are no clear success stories and even clear feasibilities and economic and financial analysis to show the commercial viability of that. So what we are doing as the Ministry of Finance, and in particular the Climate Finance Unit, is to, first of all, kind of try to bridge all the policy and strategy gaps which are in place. we didn't have a climate finance strategy, so we're kind of addressing these challenges from a piecemeal perspective. We are working on a strategy which has a great component on the private sector. And the other thing is we are also working on a taxonomy. A green taxonomy is, it tries to define what is green and what isn't. We've been having demands from the private sector, particularly the financial sector, the banks. They want to invest in green, but there is no clarity on what is green and what isn't. There are no clear incentives and rewards. So this taxonomy is going to help us to bridge that, to clarify on what is green and what isn't. We are also coming up with fiscal reforms. By fiscal reforms, I mean about tax incentives, tax holidays. We already have some of these in place. For instance, if you're importing sprinklers or for irrigation, or you're importing solar panels, they are exempted from VAT, but that is just a component of earnings from it. We have green entrepreneurs who are venturing in clean energy. They've come up with electric pressure cookers, which are very efficient, but the cost of the cooker is like 500 USDs, which is out of reach for the ordinary Ugandan. So what we are doing is to reach out to different funds, like the adaptation fund, to get money to be able to de-risk these investments and make them more affordable and roll them out in urban areas. But the other concept of fiscal reforms, of trying to relax the taxes, is that now, like if you look at that electric cooker, it has solar components which are subject to tax exemptions. But there are other components which are imported that are not exempted from tax, and it is these components which drive the price to 500 USDs because they are imported. So we're also looking at increasing the number of commodities and green imports which are on that exemption list of the Uganda Investment Authority and URA. And we think that by doing that, by creating an enabling environment, we shall be able to unlock more capital from the private sector for climate investments. Lastly, we have a facility in UDB. It is the first of its kind. It's called a climate finance facility. Right now, the capitalization is still quite minimal, USD 50 billion. That's what we started with. But we are going to replenish it annually and ensure that we have some clear window for climate finance with the private sector. Because when you engage with green entrepreneurs, they say there is no money. When you engage with the bankers and other sources of finance and other funders, they say that we have money, but there is no demand. So it's like there is some kind of information asymmetry. We are also trying to come up with a clear platform of engagement between these to match the demand and supply side of climate finance to ensure that we're able to unlock more climate finance from the private sector.
Thank you. And to sort of attest to what he's sharing, in the development of this the climate finance strategy, they've really engaged some. I think some people in this room have been part of this technical working group, where we have been giving them feedback on their strategy. They've invited us to a series of meetings, which I think have been instrumental in helping us shape it, involving private sector in the development of it. Kjristian, back to this question of finance. Of course, 1MTN is still on your fundraising journey. But for the investors in the room, what do you think they are missing in terms of low-hanging fruit when it comes to opportunity in the climate financing space?
That's a good question. I think, again, I'm stating huge progress, which is happening not only in Uganda, but also in Ireland. 2/3 of Arab land is degraded, and this is causing a massive loss in terms of lives of the people, also the loss of the economic growth in terms of GDP. Now, what is the solution? In my opinion, to be honest, for example, the tree planting campaigns, they are nice to have. Of course, this must be supported, but as a single campaigns, one here, another one here, I have seen and learned that sustainability, long-term sustainability of these initiatives, the effects and the impacts are rather low and high. Why is that? My belief is that there is a general perception that all the land restoration and tree planting activities are taken and considered as a very long term, high risk, mostly for people and planet kind of activities. There is no commercial interest in it. If it is, it's a very long time. You need to wait to get your investments and returns back. But we are advocating, and our efforts in a business and project planning plan is not only people and planet, but it's people, planet, and profits. If you also emphasize profit in your design, in the project, which makes the project and approach the business long-term, sustainable, financial, then this changes the whole game, and this changes the whole perception, not only for the locals, that they can be sure that their workplaces will be there also 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but also for the private capital. Because unfortunately, impact capital, there is too little of impact capital in the world to rely only for that. And public capital, no way it's going to happen. So the key here is to counter the private capital to the similar projects, what we do in terms of the land restoration, including all the additional benefits that comes along with that. So I would say that maybe the low-hanging point is to understand the return periods, also to understand what are the true risks, learn how these risks are already managed by the project developers and companies, and then looking into the right investment instruments. And as I said before, from my fellow panelists, the public sector can come and help support with the de-risking, for example, player or catalytic player. Yeah, there is multiple different ways how we can look at that. And right now, even in the carbon market space, maybe you know, there are also insurance, so local insurance, who are ensuring, providing the insurance for the carbon credits delivered in the future, which is basically financial de-risking the financial risk. The rest is only operational, and also operational risk you can de-risk. And if you look in terms of the return periods, and because of the holistic approach, which includes carbon credits in our project, which includes, for example, crops, and of course, as we know, there is 2 harvests a year in Rwanda, and then of course, bamboo as a renewable source of biomass and timber, and this makes it holistically important. And my point is that if you want to make a macro impact in the country or regional level, private sector players needs to work together with the public sector players as well to develop kind of the epicenters of the activities, of how to really sort of turn around the markets. And then if this epicenter project or projects will start to thrive, then of course, naturally, it will also start to attract more and more small focus into the same concept, into the same model, that they will benefit as well in the end of the day. But first, you need to have a strategical epicenter players to play crucial role. This is, I think, it's important to think of as a strategy, how we can really turn this climate financing issue around and use it for our own benefits, to attract more capital, and also to make more capital returns, as the audience are most investors.
Okay, thank you, Kjristian. Back to Aaron. Aaron, for me, this question is sort of dear to me, and it's really around local expertise and capacity development. So over 10 years ago, myself and a few partners started a carbon crediting business, which has since gone on to be maybe one of the largest carbon credit sellers in Uganda. We have clients like the Norwegian government, the Swedish, South Korea, It's fairly big and present in multiple countries. But in that time, I'm pretty sure we've spent north of $1 million in consulting fees. So when it comes to verification, validation, and all those technical aspects, we have to get consultants either from Germany, from India, South Africa. And at the time, there was the Belgian government through Enable, their development corporation, had set up a capacity building scheme with the environmental science students from Makerere University, and they trained them on carbon finance and all that. When I came to your strategy review, all those individuals work in your office. So my question is, who's doing that work now? And from a policy level, what's happening in terms of, and I think my opinion is a lot of the reasons why many people can't get into this space is they lack the expertise or the capital to pay for that expertise. Because it's globally recognized, similar to CFAs, it's very expensive to do, highly technical. What's happening at a local level when it comes to building capacity of our people to be able to understand this sector, this industry, and have the technical skills to actually support the development of local players?
The capacity gaps, like you've said, in the climate finance space are quite evident. It's a new space and it's really evolving at a very high paced rate. So even the people who were trained about 5 or 10 years ago, they need to refresh in a way to be able to catch up. So what we are doing, we've been in operation for just 1 year. We established last year in around April, so it's slightly over 1 year. But what we are doing, one, we are partnering with academic institutions. We have a partnership with Makerere University Business School and then Makerere University, but that is to target people who are already in the space or who intend to enter in the space by offering some certifications in greenhouse gas accounting, preparation of bankable project proposals aligned to different climate financing windows like the Green Climate Fund, Adaptation Fund, the Climate Investment Funds, and the World Bank. So we've established a partnership with them. We've not commenced the capacity building process, but we've established a partnership with them to kickstart that process, to come up with a capacity needs assessment. If you're in the SPRED meeting, you remember one of our objectives and interventions therein is to build institutional and individual capacity in a number of aspects in the climate and green investment space. So we have those partnerships at the academic level, which could be accessed through by paying, but also at the ministry level, we are trying to establish a community of practice. A community of practice is like-minded people, like people who, you have people of CPA, people of CFA, different people. So you agree and then you get like champions. So we're trying to come up with a capacity building plan where we're going to have a train of trainers and then be able to have these people go out there and try to roll out these different things. We're having carbon markets coming on board. They're already operational. We're working on the carbon markets regulations, but some people don't know how they can tap into carbon markets finance. And particularly the private sector, the issue is about, there is some passive thinking that when you begin going cleaner or more climate change sensitive, it's going to impact on your viability and on your profits and all that. So we also want to kind of allay those fears and show that as government, we are also coming up with tools. We are coming up with a blended tool where we're going to have a private and public partnership mechanism where we are able to de-risk some of these investments. Like Kjristian said, some of these investments are new, and when you look at most of these investments in climate change and green and the environment, they are kind of provision of public goods. So the viability is not there at the start. So we want to come in as government and shoulder a portion of this risk and then leave a threshold which is commercially viable to the private sector. And we are going to be able to build that capacity and show them how to do all that. And then we've also come up with some business models for the investments in the climate change space. We have dry spells where our agriculture is not really yielding as expected. So we are designing some insurance packages which we want to roll out to potential financiers who may want to take it on in partnership with government, where government can meet. For instance, if you're going to provide agricultural insurance to our farmers, about 60% of them are smallholders. They may not be able to afford the premium. But if government comes in and pays like 40% of the premium for these farmers, they come and value your crops or your animals, and then government meets a portion of that premium, then the other 60% can be commercially viable for the private sector to come on board. So we have all those models and tools, but which we plan to roll out, and we are working on a capacity needs and capacity building plan for now. We've just been in place for 1 year, and that is one of the things which we want to really roll out and try to alleviate all the capacity gaps which are prevailing at this point.
Okay, thank you. I had a few more questions, but I think in the interest of time, because like I said, Aaron has to be at another event speaking about the same things shortly. I'll open up the floor to a few questions first, and then maybe we shall continue on with Kjristian. I don't know if anybody has burning questions, especially for Aaron, because he has to run. Maybe I'll take 2 or 3 questions. Anybody? No? Either we haven't understood anything, or we've understood everything. Which one is it? Both, eh? The latter, we've understood everything? No? Okay, no question. I'll let him offer a few parting shots before he goes. If you have anything else to say before you close, because I know you have to run, and then I'll come back to Kjristian.
Yeah, thank you. We're grateful for being part of this conversation. And I also want to rally all of us to be a part of this climate finance space. It is a growing space with very many opportunities locally and globally. So take initiative, take interest. There are very many resources online from the World Bank, UNFCCC. You can just put in climate finance and they will show you how the landscape has been evolving over time. There are certifications, some of which are free of charge, to be able to bridge the current capacity gaps and also be able to tap into the opportunities, but also for our businesses. We have transitional risk coming on board. There are many policies coming, regulations and laws, so you don't want to be found non-compliant when those laws come to hold you accountable on climate change. So we should stay ahead of all that by participating in all these capacity building initiatives online. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for your time. Kjristian, any parting shots from you? Because we have to close the panel in the interest of time.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation. Mark, great moderation. Maybe a couple of final thoughts. Thoughts from my side is that I will emphasize again the need to work together in the private and public sector together. I have been spoken, and at least I am speaking based upon the experience. I have been spoken more than 200 something carbon markets investors globally. And I have a pretty good understanding what they want, what they don't want. So how to attract the private capital and how to make it attractive for the private capital to enter into the carbon markets. Some of the key elements that I have picked up in my conversation is that, first of all, there is a government bonds, government green bonds. Second, there is a debt for nature swaps. There are guarantees from the private sector. There is first loss takers kind of vehicles. What the public sector can work together with private ones, make to de-risk the investments in nature and in the carbon markets. As mentioned before, there is insurance players in the market. And last but not least, I would like to emphasize about available regulations and legislation. And why? Because voluntary carbon markets and compliant markets, it's come here to stay for a long period of time. And there is also the fact that even if the global corporates, they are on the journey to decarbonize themselves first, and then go to the market and buy offset to offset that last mile, because ships need to drive and airplanes need to fly. Very simple example, of course. Then Uganda and East Africa is part of the global south, pretty highly competitive markets in the carbon markets field. So we also need to learn and to understand what others are doing, why others in the global south will get more funding than Africa, specifically that what they do better, how they affect better the private financing funding, but also the public funding from maybe the global north. So it all comes down to the trade regulations, legislation, tax incentives, investment protection acts, etc. I'm not competent here to give advice, but definitely there are people who can make a big move in that sense to attract a huge amount of climate finance towards the Africa and towards Uganda. That's maybe my last point I would like to emphasize. But overall, thank you so much. It's great to be here. I really hope to see everyone soon face to face when I'm back in Kampala.
Thank you, Kjristian, and thank you for your time. To everybody, thank you for your attention. I know it's a pretty broad topic. We didn't have time to get into everything. I'll offer myself to give a masterclass to any of your teams if you want more knowledge on how this works. But overall, climate finance is not a hype. It's happening. Climate change is happening. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of opportunities. And the sooner we all, similar to blockchain, I guess, the sooner we all educate ourselves and get more skilled on this, there's a big investment opportunity that will promise returns to both yourselves and to your investors. Thank you, and thanks for your attention. Cheers.